Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Satisfactory. I'm Max Involved, and today we're gonna pick up right where we left off. Lots of big stuff. We just finished phase 3 in the last episode, so today we've got. I'll be honest, we got a lot of work to do, like a lot, and there's gonna be some pretty massive changes, but some pretty cool changes, I believe, and I think you will too. So, with that out of the way, let's hop right in this episode. Yeah, so last time we spent a lot of work getting kind of all of this set up and running so that we could finally escape phase 3 and into phase 4. Now, I'm going to be honest, we're not even close. I don't even, what is that, pressure? I don't even know what these things are, honestly. These phase 4 materials. I don't think we even have them unlocked, honestly. But yeah, so we're kind of going to pivot away from the space elevator stuff and start working on everything else we need to do. And that starts right over here, actually. So you can see I don't remember if I had this done in the last episode, but, I'm kind of building up this area over here because I want to move our hub over here. Like, move it out of there, out of the starter factory and into the main base, somewhere up in this area. I want a nice view. Like, maybe I'll put it somewhere like in this part, kind of overlooking everything, so we can kind of see all the Blue Crater Lake stuff, we can see the starter factory stuff, and of course we can see the space elevator stuff, right? So that's the idea there. But I think today, in order to really facilitate a move over here, we need to start working on some of the logistics of getting things from over there to over here, right? I don't want to necessarily remake all of the machines that I already made in there. Like, I don't want that to just be an obsolete building. And man, it looks cool. Let me tell you, I'm like really happy with how this thing looks. But this whole area is going to drastically change, right? So, like I mentioned, we're making a whole bunch of stuff in there. We're going to want to bring it up in over here somewhere. And I think that's the perfect opportunity to use trains, right? So, we got a few things that we're going to go kind of... There's a few things, I guess, to plan and figure out with how exactly we're going to move all that stuff, right? So let's hop over there and I'll kind of go through what I'm thinking. And our first stop is actually somewhere that we haven't been for a while, and that's our steel factory. And you'll notice things look a little bit different. Man, I haven't been here in a while. I forgot how much I like this place. We used to have... and we still kind of do, our output's going over this way, but you'll notice that is no longer the case here. I mean, I've still got a buildup of materials connected to dimensional depots, and that's going to kind of be like a theme of this episode. Essentially what we're going to be doing, in the short term, I want to build out a storage room, right? And so what we're doing is we're going to start disconnecting all the machines from their original kind of setups here and really just leave them in place to serve as like a temporary store for all these materials as we're building, right? And so the idea is that we'll just leave this here. It'll eventually run out, and then when it's all run out, we'll tear all this down and move it back over to where our like permanent storage room is. But if you look up, things look a lot different. And that's because we have a train station up here. So this is, if you kind of look, I've kind of started making a list here of the things that we're going to need. And, it's honestly, I think there's still a little bit more, but I'm going to probably end up using 3-ish trains for everything. So that's all the items in there, plus these items here. I'm not really going to consider the weapons factory at all because that's, it's not super built out, and it kind of is just like my Nobelisk factory. We may end up actually eventually moving stuff over here. I mean, it's not like a super crazy build, so those raw materials might be better suited at the main base. But for now, I kind of want to just talk about like what the idea is, right? So the idea is that I'm going to have a train station here specifically for steel stuff, right? And so this is kind of what I have set up already. And you'll notice that I have... oh, this needs to be powered on. Well, we'll power it up, right? So steel beams. We got pipes. What's coming up here? Might need to fix this. What is that? Encased industrial beams. Okay. Well, I'll fix that. I'll get all pipes. So then this one, yeah, this one's pipes. Okay. So all the steel products from here. The idea is that I'm going to have some trains coming through the bottom of the base there. And so this will be one of the stations. And I think what I want to do is kind of come out this way with a rail and kind of loop around and come down somewhere in this area. And the same thing, come out and loop back down around. And so I'm going to kind of utilize probably all of this space over here. This like massive area right here. I was looking under the base, right? I was looking under here, and honestly, it's going to get pretty crowded. It's going to get pretty crowded under here. And I didn't think, because we're going to need like 2 6 or 8 station, or I guess 6 or 8 cargo trains. 6 or 8. What are these things called? Hold on. We're going to need freight cars. Okay, 6 to 8 freight cars per line with a section of the steel, which I think is only going to have about 3, right? And there's just not room under here for all of that without things getting crazy. So I'm going to utilize this space here and then kind of also make use of this diagonal line that we have going through. And I just think it'll look pretty cool, right? So I'm going to kind of lay that out. And yeah, I think we'll start with the steel stuff though, because the steel is the smallest. And I kind of need to like visualize how all these lines are going to fit in here and kind of mess around with that. Okay, so things are looking a little bit different now. You can kind of see that I've been working on some stuff here, right? This is almost everything. We're going to need another station over here. But the idea here is I'm going to use kind of branching lines and multiple trains per track, right? So what does that mean to everybody and me? We're going to have to start getting into signaling, right? But let me kind of walk you through what's going on and what I have so far. So the idea is that the train is going to come through here. Now, this is kind of going to give you a little insight into my kind of my design and decor process here. But I'm initially building this stuff on foundations because it's just a little bit easier to lay long, straight tracks on the foundations. Just all at the same level, right? I could do beams, and I'm using a lot of beams for stuff. But for this specifically, I'm using foundations. And one of the things, and I think I have a blueprint here, right? One of the things I'm doing too is spacing things out in a way, right? So if I do this, I like having stuff equally spaced out and looking kind of nice, right? So one of the things I've been doing is putting foundations this far apart, which is just about 1 pillar, right? Well, what did I make specifically for that stuff over there? I made these. And it just so happens that I can just go put these right in the middle of all of these foundations. And when I'm done, perfectly spaced out train supports. All, you know, and then I can just get rid of these. I can put on the little extra, you know, the little extra piece here. And we're ready to go. So that's kind of why I'm building with these foundations, right? It's all spaced out in a way that would allow me to do this kind of quickly. So that's kind of how the sausage is made, right? So, okay, so let's talk about how these rails are laid out, right? So I'm doing a normal kind of 2-rail design here, right? So we're going to have an inbound and an outbound line. I'm going to just give it to you straight. This is not going to connect back to the main base yet. This is a lot of work. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around exactly how it's all going to kind of fit together. So I'm not even going to concern myself with getting all the way back. But, you know, we'll at least go from here and complete the loops, right? So the idea is you're going to have one of 3 stations. There's going to be probably another station out right next to this one, right? But this station and the one that I'm going to build next to it are going to handle everything from in here. This line right here, so in essence, we have like a bypass line. That's what this is right here. This one and these other 2 are all going to connect back over here in a loop. And, you know, the trains have the option of diverting up to the steel factory. And you can see this is where I'm really using the beams. These scenarios specifically where I have kind of these longer 90s to make are great for using the beams. But also, let me go over here because I think this one has a really nice example, right? So again, beams here for the 90s instead of foundations. I could have used foundations, but I decided to go with the beams because of specifically this curve right here. And you'll notice we're clipping through the beams right here, but this method is allowing me to go from that point to that point with a very straight kind of sweeping curve. You can't do this with foundations, right? Which is why I'm using the beams. And then of course, you know, you just get rid of the beams when you're done. And then, you know, I can kind of throw the supports down if I want. You know, like, let's say like right there. So I would do something like that. I would do something like that. And then you kind of get rid of the top one. And if I can get a vantage point, you know, you just kind of slap this on top. Another reason why these beams are helpful. Yeah, I can just nudge it in. You know, and I can do that, right? And then that's just like how we kind of finish off the design there. So yeah, so that's kind of the idea here. But then anyway, let's kind of continue here. So that's going to grab all 3 steel items and merge back with this track over here, right? So you can see like a merge there. And the idea is that we have one more stop specifically for the steel. And that's right over here because we are also making encased industrial beams right there. So I wanted, and because it's not a very fast process, I wanted the train to grab encased industrial beams from there and from here to bring over to the main base, right? So this kind of this extra little steel out train there. And then it all like merges back. And again, we'll have to do like path signaling and stuff right here. But again, I'm using kind of like a bypass. In the Blue Crater Lake, there's no bypass because the only train on that line specifically hits 2 different stations like in this route. I may, you know, now that I'm a little bit more seasoned with trains and kind of how it all works, I may redo that whole setup. Number one, to kind of incorporate like some of this beam work that I did and, you know, all the supports that I'm going to put on here, but also to kind of make that line a little bit more flexible because you never know, right? Like I've got a ton of either compacted coal or sulfur and coal split, like depending on how I want to deal with that, sitting over in the Blue Crater Lake. And that might be a good idea to kind of bring back to the main base for processing, you know, for weapons or whatever, right? Like who knows? So yeah, that's kind of the idea with all of this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get this second station put in and then start hooking up items to the stations. And I got a really cool idea for that, I think. And it's going to make it look a lot busier under here and kind of busy out here. And I think that's such a cool idea. So let me get to that and then you guys know what'll happen. All right, so we got the second station in here and this is kind of the idea. I'm going to be using, and I think this is going to look super cool. I'm going to be using this really massive kind of like bridge to bring the items from the main base into this massive train platform. And if you'll notice, this is kind of where I branched it off way back here. Again, I'm trying to use a combination of something that fits perfectly diagonal through here and then snapping onto the world grid, right? And I think, yeah, this section is the world grid, which is how I kind of created this angle. This kind of 45 right here is just something that well, really, the way I did it is I went into the entrance here, and I think I still have the concrete there. Let's kind of take a look real quick. Yeah, so what I did is I kind of just space it out so that it fits perfectly in between here, right? So I guess like the easiest way to show you how I did this is I just kind of went like this. Let's use like a 4 meter, I guess. And, you know, it's perfectly 3 blocks And then all I did, here, let's get rid of these, is I just kind of, well, I'll do it from up here. Instead of like snapping right to the middle, you just lock it in place and kind of just split it. And then that puts you on the exact middle of here. And because this building's like roughly square and the way I built everything, I had this perfect shot right down the middle to kind of aim for everything. So that was just, that's how I planned it all out. And then once we get out there, you know, who knows, I want to kind of maybe I'll go in the ground, you know, follow the terrain. Maybe I won't. I'm not really 100% sure how exactly I want to do that, but you know, we'll see. But anyways, back to kind of how we're getting the items. So the idea, and you'll notice I'm kind of started it over here already. You can already kind of see some stuff. The idea is that I'm just literally dropping items through the floor, and they're going down the bottom here. And you can see I've got the other kind of outputs right here. And all these items are just going to kind of make their way over to this thing. And it's just going to be a massive conveyor line going to the stations. And then eventually they drop out, or they will drop out in these conveyor lifts wherever the appropriate station needs to be. Now, I'm not like assigning these to anything. Like there's no designated right or wrong answer. So yeah, they can just, whatever goes on which belt is where it goes. I will need to keep track of what's in each car when I get back over there, or maybe not. I don't know, because we can use smart splitters and whatnot, right? Sushi belts and all that. But yeah, I also had an idea, and I think it could look really cool, right? I don't know if I can do it here. This is just something that popped into my head that I want to maybe try to incorporate at the main base, right? But imagine we have a wall where we can use stuff like this, right? I don't know exactly how big we want it, but let's say, you know, say we do something like this, right? We have a couple of these. Ideally, they're all lined up. Here, let's get rid of that one, right? And then we can say, like, for example, car 1, let's say it's getting, I don't know, iron plate, right? And it's going, I don't know, 300 per minute, right? You know what? Maybe we don't need something that big. But the idea is that, like, you could do something like this. And I don't know if I can put text on this. Let me see. The design I still have to worry about, right? Oh, I can set text, right? So you can say, like, steal out 1, right? So I can have a sign that's saying, like, what the train is and then what each car is. So I think there's actually like is there a smaller square? Yeah, like this one, right? So I can do like this, maybe get rid of that, put on a 2-meter sign. I don't know, something like that. And I can say, you know, just have this be like a 1. Or is that like is that an icon background? I don't know. Have it just be a number though. I thought you could do that. I don't know. Okay. But make it like, here we'll do none. And make the, oh, you can only do icons. But anyway, the idea is that like you have which car and how many of each item, right? So, and then this could be 300 per minute. And then have it so that when I go and I can go into like a logistics room or something, or the storage room, and I could look at all the trains that are coming in and kind of what they're outputting. That I don't know, that was just like an idea that I had floating in my head. We'll see how exactly I make that happen, but I think that's something I really want to try because I think that'd be super cool. But anyway, let's get all of this stuff finished though in the meantime, because like I said, this is quite a bit of work. And I actually wanted to bring you guys in after I kind of had this stuff hooked up. I think both stations are almost, if not all the way hooked up. And I actually made a mistake. When I was going through here, for some reason I thought that we needed an 8 station train 2. But if you count here, there's only 6 items, right? So I made this setup for 8, which normally wouldn't be a big deal. Like, oh, just pop the stuff off the back. But I ended up loading back to front. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave this, but the first 2 cars are going to be empty. With the idea that if there's some, I don't know, like maybe we grab some materials over there, or we make something else in this area, or I don't know, maybe we grab stuff from over there, right? Then I'll go and kind of reuse these cars for something else. I don't know. But I thought it was more important to have the stations lined up over here than to have the backs lined up, if that makes sense, right? And I really didn't want to reconfigure everything to go all the way over here. So slight little miscalculation there, but overall I think it's, working pretty well. We also need to start doing this signaling, and I have started kind of doing the signaling, and I think, quote unquote, I kind of understand it. So from what I have gathered and from how I understand things, right? Block and path signals exist so trains don't crash, right? And you'll notice, I guess some of the best practices that I've seen other people say, you want a block signal in the beginning of the station so that any other train trying to get into the station doesn't crash into it, right? So block signals, and if I put a block down, you'll kind of see all these highlighted pieces of track. Those are all the different blocks that exist. And the idea behind a block signal is that while a train is in any given block, another train won't enter that block. So that's fine for one single lines. But when you have situations like this, where you have, well, I guess this is also block signal. So this isn't really as big of a deal, right? Because one line branching into 2 lines that doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? What I might do is, I don't know if this needs a path signal, actually, because I don't know if I put this down, I think it sees this as one big block. So what I may do is actually put a block signal right there, because what I don't want is I don't want a train to not go this way because maybe a train is waiting right here. Now that shouldn't be the case because we're only gonna have 3 trains, but I think it's like a good practice, right? So that's kind of how these block signals work. Path signals are kind of for the other situation. Like there's some here, but let's go over here because I think this is a better example and kind of a bigger example, right? This should be, yes, a path signal, right? And this is a path signal, yep, and that is also a path signal. So what this does, I believe the path signals, the way they kind of work is they analyze everything in an intersection and anything coming to an intersection, right? So if there's a train, it's almost like a block signal for two lines, right? So like you don't want a train going this way and a train going this way because they can collide here. So what I think like this path signal and that path signal work together to make sure like, oh, if a train has entered here, this path signal will stop another train from going until the train has left this whole area. Right? And you can kind of see this green block, right? So I guess there's an argument that you can make that I could put a block signal on here, maybe? I don't know. It seems to only let you put them in certain areas. Like if I put a block signal there, maybe that's a better idea. Although, what is this saying? Maybe I didn't need that. I don't know. Signaling is... Block has conflicting... Okay, so let's just get rid of that. Everything seems to be happy, but I think the way this path signal is ultimately going to work is it's not going to let a train enter this intersection, including that one there. So these 3 control this intersection. And you see it, we have a block, or I guess a path signal right there, right? So yeah, I think the way this is going to work is none of these trains are going to enter this intersection until it's clear. And then how it determines the order, I don't know. But yeah, so we've started kind of doing all of that. I'm going to put more blocks as, you know, where necessary. Again, we have path signals over here. So I guess the way I kind of understand it, path signals you use when you have multiple trains or multiple rails condensing into one. And block signals are when you have either one rail continuously or one rail splitting into two. Because this is a block signal. This is not a path signal, right? We got another block signal there. We got another block signal here, right? Or no, path signal. But path signals you need when you have multiple rails converging into one. So block for diverging, path for converging, if that makes sense. I don't know. Any train experts, let me know down below. Because if I have that wrong, I don't want to be spreading misinformation, you know. Okay, so I think now kind of the only thing left is to kind of clean this up a little bit and put down all of the supports and kind of make it look pretty. And that's going to be a very time-consuming process, so I'll spare you guys. And let me tell you, it took me a while, but I think the end result looks pretty good. I think all of the rails done. I don't think I missed any, and I'm pretty happy with how things look. I also did a little bit on the train station. I think the train station's got some more work that we can do, but you know, I added some catwalks so you can kind of get around, you know, up and down and around the train station. You can kind of walk through the side here. I labeled the boxes, you know, I put steel in places, you know. I just think it looks pretty cool, so you can see, you know, monitor things and keep an eye on things. Again, the train supports are my favorite. I think I really like this design, and because of the way that I'm building them and I'm spacing everything out, when you have these converging tracks, I love this like dual track layout that I have. I just think it looks so nice. And yeah, one mistake, I guess you can say, but I'm kind of constrained, right? You'll notice that especially in these areas, I don't have a ton of these bigger like ground supports because I'm running into height limits, right? So if you kind of look, like the trains are kind of in between these pillars. I need 8 full meters and a surface to kind of put in those bigger supports. So I'm kind of just floating everything right now. I may end up trying to figure out like a ground, kind of a ground support. I got kind of lucky in areas like this where I just was able to kind of put concrete down and have it just look like it's running on concrete. And kind of over here where, you know, where the train starts to get into like in the way kind of, I kind of luck out, like all the high stuff, not a problem, right? When you have a ton of height, you can put the supports in, and I think they look really good. This design works with the curves pretty well, and everything looks like it's, you know, like look at all, it's like the support is, it's all there, it's all kind of looks functional and all that, right? And over here, what I ended up doing is, again, just kind of like building this concrete platform. But this isn't practical everywhere, so I'm going to kind of have to figure out how I can evolve this design to kind of accommodate like smaller or being closer to the terrain, right? And, you know, we'll see. I don't really have that in my head yet. Something I'll have to play with. But, yeah, I think... So this is about as far as we're going to get today on all the train stuff. Again, I'm not going to get this hooked back up to the main base because that's like a whole other... that's like a whole other thing that I need to deal with. And again, we're not too worried about the production because we have those boxes standing by with just a ton of stuff, right? So, but there is something I want to also try to accomplish this episode, and that's actually executing the move. So I want to move the hub, and I want to do some other stuff too. So let me kind of build out my new hub location, and I want to get at least some stuff researched, right? Some of the bauxite stuff, some of that, because you can see I have that bauxite refinement set up, but or at least the milestone pin, but I want to build an area for the hub over there because I want to, again, like try to start moving over there. So let me boop over there. Okay, and actually I lied. I want to unlock this hover pack because I've been wanting this for so long. It's going to make things so much easier. And luckily I have a bunch of this stuff kind of from collecting things, right? So let's get this.
Milestone reached. The hover pack draws energy from nearby power connections.
Where do I make
and so
this?
can only be used in their vicinity. It provides an excellent vantage point of your work, which you clearly need. Otherwise, you would have optimized that obvious problem by now.
And just like that, look at that. Our first hover pack. I've never used this before. It's a little, okay. It's got pretty good speed. But this is going to make things so much easier. Okay. While we're waiting for this to come back, let's select this. I think I have everything. What is that? Computers? Okay, computers, rubber, motors. Yeah, I got enough motors. Well, can I just put this stuff in? No, not yet. Okay. Rubber. Okay, I think I've got everything for that. I wonder if this timer counts. Well, let's take it. Wow. Okay. So you'll notice I have something right up there. So let's like boop our way over there and then get the hub set down. Okay, we've had to switch back to the jetpack because I don't have power infrastructure over here yet. But this is the area that I have picked out to put the hub. And I was really debating on where exactly I wanted it, right? Because, you know, I have all this red forest over here, and I think it'd be really cool to kind of have the red forest being a background. Because, you know, we can, like, wall it off from enemies, so I'm not too concerned about that. But I ultimately decided, like, I want to be able to kind of see what's going on over here. And so I made this, I don't know, this kind of design here for the hub. I don't know. We'll see. So let's slap this guy down. How do we want it? I kind of want it centered, but I don't even know where the center is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we want it centered. Is that about? I think that's pretty close. Yeah, let's put it down. Right, and I think that's a pretty good spot. So the idea is that, you know, we have space around. I can kind of build up this area. Well, maybe this will be the hub-specific area. And I might end up putting, like, walls to kind of enclose this area, too. Because, you know, I want, like, a crafting area, you know, like equipment and all that. A little, again, a little storage room. And then eventually we're going to need to connect the train over to this area, right? But I want there to be a scenario where the train comes, or all of those trains come all the way up the spiral, which I still have to work on. I haven't built this yet. But I want them to come all the way up and then deposit their materials and then have that all get sorted. And then maybe I have like a storage corridor over here. Something like that, right? I'm going to also incorporate this area as part of just the design. Hopefully that waterfall isn't too loud. But you can also see there's a ton of spicy rocks over here. Uranium. We're going to have to get rid of that too. Another thing. I have this guy right here, which is just a hole all the way down. So the idea is that we're going to also make like a stair corridor so I can kind of get in between the levels easier. And yeah, that's kind of the plan here. And then the last thing I want to do, though, is we're going to do this bauxite unlock. Because one of the other things I need to kind of get going is unlocking more recipes in the MAM. And I think I need to be doing some of these. Oh. Come back? It is come back. This is such a cool area, too. I like it. I think it's super nice. Look at that. But yeah, so like there's a ton of resources out in this area right here, including some over there. there's obviously resources out here and everywhere, right? So I think it's a good, and look, there's resources up here, you know? So I think this is a good kind of like central location that we can kind of keep an eye on everything. And eventually, especially with like hypertubes and stuff, get between all the levels. You know, like if I need to go from here to over there, maybe it's a hypertube cannon. You know, maybe we build a little airport on the floor under here. I don't know. But let's do this whole last one. Oh, I'm short. Hold on. I'm not short.
Milestone reached. Bauxite is refined into aluminum products via a multi-step process. Considering your past achievements, you should have the minimum required skill to overcome these new production challenges. If it helps, many others have done this before, so if you fail, someone else will eventually succeed.
All right. Well, with that vote of confidence from Ada, let me put all these in here. See, and like these slugs are just reminding me every day of what I still need to do, especially with all the storage stuff. So, yeah, we just unlocked like a huge part of the game. I don't think we got any machines out of that, right? Just a bunch of new materials. Oh, we could scan for bauxite and rock quartz now. But I know that there are alt recipes for this that we're going to want to get. We want to get Mark V logistics. There's just so much stuff. Like get into Blender, right? But we got to start making aluminum products. Although, I don't know. We might have enough. Computers are the only thing. Do we have an aluminum casing? Yes. Alclad aluminum sheets. Take some of those. What do we need for this? Plastic, I know we can get. And, okay, so computers are the thing. All right, so I guess we can't get the blender this episode. But what we can do is sign off. So thank you all so much. I hope you are enjoying this because I think we're approaching the stage of the game where we're going to have just like a ton of stuff to do. Like the fact that we moved over here is a big milestone in itself. And just to kind of get this place livable, there's so much work to do. You know what I mean? There's design work, there's functional work, there's all kinds of stuff. So I'm super excited about it. And I hope you guys are too. And with that, thank you all so much. And we'll see you in the next one.